All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the LogiCast. My name is Blanka Kong. I'm joined by Mr. Esoteric. He is back. Gunner Wolf. Oh, Gunner Eos. And Howler Wolf. Almost messed that up. Well, I did mess it up, but that's okay. I recovered. Today's topic is going to be an interesting one. We're going to talk about games that are hard to put down. So, I don't know if anybody has ever had this experience. I'm sure you have. Hopefully, it's different amongst all of us. There might be some overlap, but have you ever picked up a game, started playing, and then the entire day just passes you by? Definitely happened to me. There's a few games that are hard to put down, and the main one is Civilization for me. That is a game that I discovered, I don't know, back on the PS3, Civilization Revolution. Decided one day, I was like, this game looks kind of cool, interesting. You have like your own units and you run your own country. I think I can play this. This is kind of cool. Man, did I not realize the crack that was in my hands on that disc. When I started playing, and I started playing like maybe 5 o'clock in the evening, and I played until like 12 o'clock in the afternoon the following day. And
My God.
I didn't even feel it. Like I was tired. Like once I stopped, I was fucking exhausted. But when I was playing, I didn't feel. I was just like, oh my god, I'm so close to building whatever. This ancient building. There's something about having a creative hand on like what your game is that really immerses me, and doing all like this little management stuff, like managing an army, managing a budget, like a not even a budget but a world economy, managing your culture, managing your science, and then comparing it to like the other competitors, which is just computers, and trying to figure out like, oh, this guy has, you know this guy has like assault weapons, like I need assault weapons to boost my military, right? um or this other guy has like these ancient paintings that gives him a bunch of culture. Like, how can I get that from him? Should I start a war? Should I trade with him? Like, there's so many different things you can do in that game, and it's I just start playing it and it's over. Like, one time I played it on there's a Civilization for the Switch, and I remember I had a 5 or almost 6 hour flight from New York to Vegas. I started playing Civilization, didn't feel it. Like, by turn 112 or whatever, the plane was landing. I was like, oh fuck, okay. I didn't even
God
feel it,
bless you. I wish I could do something to distract me from the fact that I'm in a plane.
dude. I didn't even realize. Like, I thought like by turn like 100 or whatever, I was like, oh, we're probably halfway, and I didn't even look at my phone. I was just like, but I got to keep working on my cities. And 12 turns later, which might have been like half an hour later, it's like, oh, landing in Las Vegas, Nevada. I was like, oh shit. Let me put this shit in rest mode. So Civilization is easily a game that's super hard for me to put down, and I purposely stay away from it so that I don't spend the entire day sitting down playing it, because I will. I'll say, okay, I'm only gonna play until turn 25, but then I make certain progress, and I'm like, fuck, just 3 more turns, and I'll get this. Let me just play another few turns, and then forget it. There goes the day. Like, nothing is getting done. So that's my game. Oh, it's one of them. What's a game that's hard for you to put down? Esoteric?
Well, it's so funny that you mention like a tactical game such as Civilization as one of yours because the game that I was going to say that you guys already know, I spoke to you guys like past couple of weekends about it, about
Hello
picking it
Kitty,
up.
right?
Besides Hello Kitty, great game, very grind heavy. But no, in all seriousness, I was going to speak about Disgaea. Like I love the entire series of Disgaea. I started with the first one back on the PS2, and of course, you guys know. But for those of you, the viewers who don't know, like I'm really into tactical RPGs. You know, I love Final Fantasy Tactics. I love Disgaea. Um, an unpopular game, I definitely loved Valkyrie Covenant of the Plume, which was very unpopular based off of like the transition from what it became to what it was on the DS. But I liked it anyway because it was a tactical RPG. Um, what makes this guy really hard to put down, which is really weird, is the grind factor. Like the different characters that you can build, the different weapons that you can build. Like almost everything within the game has a leveling system. You have to level your items, you have to level your characters, you have to do certain things to create a new character. You build something that's known as mana in order to essentially have a new character at your disposal. And it's a whole bunch of things. Like you have mages, you have warriors, you have like kung fu fighters, like the whole freaking works. And it's backed by nothing but entertainment and like funny story lores and whatnot. So that's a game that's really, really hard for me to put down. I remember back when it did come out on the PS2, I was like, what the hell is this game? It doesn't look interesting or whatever. But when I started playing it, it was a school night, and much like you, Kong, where you like pretty much played all night, I played from as soon as I got home, you know, 8 or whatever, played, did homework, played again, all the way up until it was time to go back to school. So I had to like take a shower real quick, leave, and the game was just super addicting. So um that's my first entry, Disgaea.
Two tactics games. Okay.
Yes.
Gunner Eos, tell us a game that's hard for you to put down.
Right. Okay. Well, to keep it rolling, it's the same type of game. It's a tactical RPG, and Esoteric already mentioned it. It's Final Fantasy Tactics, specifically War of the Lions, and I
Oh,
make that distinction because
very good one.
it's the War of the Lions version that I love, and not so much the original one. So just to break it down quick, the original one was on the PlayStation, and War of the Lions was on the PSP. Now, the reason I love that one is because that one changed the dialogue for the entire game. So, to elaborate, Final Fantasy Tactics takes place in like a medieval world called Ivalice, and that world is based off essentially the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages. So, but the issue with the original one on the PlayStation is that they spoke modern English. So they would speak kind of how we would speak modern English. They weren't really speaking that during that time period in that, that Tactics was trying to emulate. But when the PSP one came out, they completely changed the dialogue for everything. Everything was old English. They spoke with English accents because there were fucking cutscenes now, which was amazing. The PlayStation one didn't have CGI cutscenes. This
Fucking
one did.
cutscenes.
Yeah, I was like, and they were in like the art style was amazing. They were like the sprites were well designed for small I would say 2.3 because they weren't fully 3D, but they weren't pixel sprites. They were like all hand drawn, and you can tell that in the artwork.
Yeah.
There were little things in the in-game cutscenes, like a character. This is all like little sprites now. This isn't like Final Fantasy 7 and up, where it was like full 3D models. These were little sprite models that they took a wine cup and the character was pouring wine into it, and the cup went from empty to full. You actually saw wine in his little cup, and then he drank it, and the wine disappeared. It was something they didn't have to do. They could have just left the wine cup full, and then in your imagination you could have said he took a sip from it. But no, he actually drained the cup, and that showed up in the cutscene. So it was little things like that. Like I said, the dialogue was amazing. The storyline was dark for a Final Fantasy game. Was really dark and very like had underlying tones of like political strife, religious strife. Like it had those underlying real world themes for a Final Fantasy game, which is freaking nuts. You had all the classic jobs. You had everybody's favorite Cloud. He was in the original one, but the War of the Lions version added Balthier. because at that time 12 was the latest Final Fantasy game. So you can have him in your party, you can have Cloud in your party, you can have these tons of classes, and I fell in love with that game, and I beat it in one sitting, and that was I think that was an all-nighter as well. And to this day, the only reason my PSP exists is to play Final Fantasy Tactics because I don't want to get it on my phone. Because that's the only way legitimately to play it nowadays is on mobile devices, and that's not my jam. So I have my PSP, I have my UMD copy of Final Fantasy Tactics, and to this day, I'll just get the urge and I'll start a new run in Final Fantasy, even though I played that game to death. I know the characters by heart, the storyline by heart, the lines by heart. It's pretty bad. So yeah, for me it's definitely Tactics. I love that game. Recommend it to anybody who asks, or even if you don't ask. And it's a game to this day that I still play.
You're just walking down the street handing out copies. Like, hey, come over here.
Yeah, man.
Final Fantasy, War of the Lions.
Yeah,
Don't
well,
fucking ask me questions. Just play that shit.
shit, I'm like, no, these physical copies are hard to find, so here's an emulation site. No, yeah, I love that game.
Awesome.
Great
It's one of
selection.
those games I've been meaning to like try, because I everybody who's played it is like, dude, this is the tactics game to play. But I just haven't. So.
Yeah, I recommend. Well, I'm gonna recommend it because I recommended everybody. But yeah, you should give it a shot at some point. It's its own thing. It's the story's good. It doesn't have a lot of input from other Final Fantasy games other than those two characters from another Final Fantasy game. So it's its own world. It's so good they even put it into the MMO Final Fantasy 14, which made me happy as a fanboy of that game.
Maybe that's something I can stream at some point when I do decide to try it.
You have a dedicated viewer, that's for sure.
Just telling me what to do. Like, you gotta move him there. Move him
No.
there.
I'll probably silently do that. I just won't type it out to you.
Yeah, it's like playing those types of games, which I love because I really like grew up playing chess. Like Kong and I, when we was in were roomies together, we used to play a little chess here and there. So I love those type of games. Like I can literally play them all night when it comes to tactical RPGs.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
All right, so Wolf, what do you got for us, man?
I do not have a tactical RPG, unfortunately.
You son of a.
However, I will admit, tactical RPGs is the shit. They are awesome games overall because there are tactical RPGs that I do love. But the first game that I had picked for my entry is completely random. It's a little off, but I chose No More Heroes, the
Oh.
first one.
okay.
The reason why I chose No More Heroes is because the game was so different, so quirky, so random that I always just was like, what's next? What else are they gonna throw at me? So I would just give it a little more nudge, and then that nudge would turn into, well, sunrise, and it's the next day. I think I beat No More Heroes in 2 days, and I played for like 10 or 12 hours straight. For the first half of it, because you all right. So in the premise of No More Heroes is that you're this immature kid who feels like the only way he's gonna get laid by this hot Italian woman or French woman is by killing 10 assassins and becoming the number one assassin at that moment. But the assassins themselves were so different. They were so weird that I just needed to know what the next assassin was gonna throw at me. What is their gimmick? What is their quirk? What kind of personality am I gonna run into next? It was just always that curiosity that kept me going. So I think I went from Assassin 1 to 6 on my first playthrough.
Damn.
On the first night that I bought it, on Friday that I
Yeah.
bought it, or Thursday that I bought it.
Whew. And that game wasn't no walk in the park. So
No, it's not. It's a very archaic game. It's very archaic. Yeah, but I think I did like 1 through 6. And the last one, the sixth one for the first one, was an army chick with one leg who could run faster than you can. So you see what I'm saying about the weird shit that the game, like she had one leg, but she's moving faster than you on foot, literally. Or I should say on foot because it's
On
feet
one
too.
foot.
On 1 foot, she's moving faster than you, and she would throw grenades and all that other stuff. But it's just like every new boss or every new interaction that I had with another character was just like, I gotta see what's behind this random ass door. Let's just go through it. And that would be another hour or two. Because I had to grind to make the money to, yeah, because you have to pay to fight the bosses. Like the bosses in No More Heroes, they took a page from Mayweather. You have to pay to fight them.
All right.
So so um yeah, so you had to grind out, and that's what killed a lot of the time. But it was just like the game is so weird that I constantly piqued my interest on what more am I going to get out of this. It was just like constantly playing a game of I guess what, Blind Chicken, I think is the name of the game or something like that. But it interested me so much that I just couldn't put it down. So I went through Assassin 1 through 6. The first night I straight into Sunrise. I think I fell asleep while the game was still on. I
Damn.
took my sleep, I ate my breakfast, and then I went back and finished it the next day. So yeah, for me, my first entry is No More Heroes.
All right.
I personally love it.
Nice. Are you planning on picking up 3?
After Pokemon, because Pokemon is life. So, but I will play No More
You need
Heroes
to get
3.
you a T-shirt that just says
Yeah,
Pokemon's
right.
life.
Yes, it is. All right, back to you, Esoteric, if you have another game in.
No, it's Kong's. Go.
Oh.
Oh yeah, I did a weird zigzag, didn't I?
Yeah.
All right, so another game that I have a hard time putting down since I discovered it is the Elder Scrolls games. So I heard about Elder Scrolls back in the day, back when Morrowind was the latest one on Xbox, but I was like, that game looks kind of, I don't know. I was like very judgmental. I mean, mind you, I'm like 13, 14 at the time. So if it wasn't like Grand Theft Auto or Devil May Cry or something cool and badass like that, I wasn't into it. But when I decided to try it was when Oblivion had came out, when it was out. I don't know if it just came out, but I had an Xbox 360 and I was like, let me try this Oblivion game. Like everybody says this game is amazing. How good can it be? Well, I decided to pick it up, or I rented it, one or the other. And the first night that I played it, this at the time I was in college, so this is like my first year of college. So this is like 06, maybe 07. I started playing. I was like, oh, this game is kind of interesting. Okay, and I played through the whole night, and I had I had classes the next day, and I totally skipped my classes to keep playing the game. I played it from the night before through the night into the morning, into the day, into the afternoon, through the following night, and then I finally stopped. I played like literally, probably 24 hours. I mean, I took breaks to eat or whatever and to use the bathroom, but like I played straight through. I was fucking immersed. Like I was like, yo, this game is crazy. And every time that I would tell myself to stop, I would also tell myself, well, shit, I gotta see what the next mission of the Dark Brotherhood is. I can't let the whatever it's called, the Crimson Mother down. Fuck, let me just keep playing. Let me just finish this quest line and then I'll stop. But then there was something else would come up. Like I would go into a new town, talk to a new NPC, and it's like, oh, did you hear about the Fighters Guild? And I'm like, what's the Fighters Guild? Down another rabbit hole of quest. And then I would do other stuff like hear like rumors from NPCs about like becoming a vampire. I'm like, you become a vampire in this game? And then come to find out I did indeed become a vampire in the game. And I had to like feed on people at night, and I would take like residual damage during the day if I was in the sunlight. things like that. I
Wow.
was like, yo, this game is sick. And I just kept fucking playing it. I was obsessed with it. And then I could buy houses. I was like, you could own a house, you can own property in this game. All right, I need money. I need to grind money. So I just started doing like it was just one thing after another. And I just couldn't stop playing it. It's the first game on my original Xbox account that I got all the achievements for. I did everything. I
Nice.
love that game.
Wow.
I didn't play the DLC for it because the DLC wasn't available on console at the time, but I remember being so immersed. And the fact that you create your own character and there's like 10 different races and they all mean something, like each character or each race has like certain buffs that you get or whatever, and you kind of build around that. And it was one of those games where like to level up certain abilities you had to like do the thing. So it's like if I want to build my healing, I need to heal. So you just constantly like, use the healing spell. If I wanted to increase my speechcraft because I wanted to be a better, because that was important in the game. Like you had to talk to people, you had to convince people to give you quests, you had to convince people to like let you through certain doors or whatever. So if your speechcraft was high, then you would have more options on like the conversation wheel or whatever. So you would have to like
Oh, that's
engage
dope.
people to build that, and then to build your athleticism, you just have to run and jump and just you have to do the thing that you want to be good at, which to me made a lot of sense, and so it just made the game more immersive. I almost said Skyrim. The Elder Scrolls Oblivion is a game that's very hard to put down, and I would say I favor that game more than I do Skyrim, only because it was the first game of that franchise of games to be introduced to me, if to have that effect on me. And I still think even without that, I still like Oblivion more. There's something about Oblivion that like really like, man, this game is fucking great. Even though Skyrim is fantastic, and I think Skyrim is a better game from a very objective standpoint, but Oblivion, for some reason, I just love that game, the quest lines, everything, even the janky bullshit that you see in Oblivion, like characters will walk up and say things that make no sense to each other. Like there'll be a character who's like poison and dying on the ground, and it's like, oh, I'm dying. But then another NPC will walk up to him and be like, hello, friend. And then he would stop from the I'm poisoned, I'm dying animation to like, nothing much. Did you hear what's happening in Thorwood? And then go back to, I'm poisoned, I'm dying, which is fucking hilarious to me. So even though that wasn't intentional, but it was just so funny. So it just added to the charm of the game. Little things like that. So
Don't they have like
Oblivion is my other
YouTube
entry.
videos based off of that?
Oh,
Like,
yeah, and it's so funny. I find myself like watching them late at night when I don't want to go to sleep, but I should, but I just don't want to. So I'll find something to watch, and I'll just watch Oblivion compilations, and then watch the videos of people in real life, saying things that you would hear in Oblivion that make no sense, but it happened, and they would play the music over it. So good. I'll send a few to you, or maybe we'll react to some at some point. But yeah, Oblivion's my second entry. So with that being said, I'm gonna pass it back to Esoteric.
funny you mentioned that because a lot of people while I stream always, kind of suggest play Skyrim, play something Elder Scrollsy or whatever. Like I already know if I were to pick up that game that it'd be really difficult to put down, and it's a lot of like work
Mm-hmm.
involvement into that game. So but that's a nice pick though. Um the next game that I'm about to mention, it wasn't anything really groundbreaking about it, but what really caused me to not put it down was the group and just the competition overall. And I would have to say, Call of Duty Black Ops. Um, as you guys already know, it was around a time where we had a lot of free time, and all we would do is just be on Call of Duty and just be challenging other players, across the globe, the continent, whatever, in team deathmatch and whatnot. Or I think was it this particular one that had kill confirmed as well? Did it start with the first one
Not
or
I don't
the
remember.
first Black Ops original didn't have kill confirm.
Did it? I don't remember. Oh
yeah,
man.
I don't really
I don't think so though. I don't think so.
yeah, I don't remember myself either. But what I do remember is playing the game countless hours. We would start from like 7 in the evening, won't end till like 2 or 3 o'clock. And I remember, you know, all I'm saying at the end of each match is one more. Okay, one more. And then during the match, I'm like, okay, I gotta go to bed. I gotta wake up early in the morning. And then after the match is done, I'm like, you know what? I got one more in me. And this will go and go and go on till like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. you know, to the
I
point where
remember
you
those
guys are like,
nights
well, I'm tired.
because the way you would say one more wasn't so much to convince us of one more, but convince yourself. It was like, no, one more. I can even imagine seeing you like point your head at yourself, going, no, one more, like you're arguing with yourself. Like I remember that very, very well.
Oh, it definitely wasn't to convince y'all because you guys were still going to be on. I was supposedly the first one that was supposed to be like, okay, I'm signing off, guys, but that wasn't the case.
That never
But
was the case.
Yeah.
listen, the game was fun, and it's even more fun playing with your friends, and just not only that, just being able to, play against other people, hearing the banter in the lobbies, a lot of vulgarity going on, a lot of like shit
Yeah.
that you shouldn't even hear
A lot
come
of
out of people's
oh
mouths.
yeah, opinions on different groups of people.
Yeah, a lot of jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we don't have enough people on our team, arguments between players within our team because they're competing against each other. Um,
Mhm.
you'll just hear random things like "you camping bastard," or I don't know if this particular one did it, but there was a Call of Duty where when you would kill someone, you would you would hear them for a few moments as to what
Mhm.
they're saying before they like
That was
kind of went
yeah
back to their team.
yeah. Black Ops
Um,
did that.
okay, like the
Mhm.
game was amazing, just leveling up and things like that. Well, let me retract that. It's not that the game was amazing. It was pretty much similar to all the other Call of Duties, but what
Well, no,
made it fun.
well, personally, I feel Call of Duty Black Ops was one of the last. Maybe not. I've stopped playing them for a while now, but it was
Mhm.
actually a really solid shooter.
Oh
It
yeah,
wasn't
it
like a
definitely
lot of
was.
like it wasn't like Modern Warfare with fucking Commando Pro and dudes knifing you from down the block. Like they didn't
Yeah,
have any of that garbage.
yeah. It was pretty. Yeah, it was definitely pretty balanced. That one and Black Ops 2, which was probably the last one that we've played together. I heard World at War was pretty solid too, but at that time we didn't really like play that collectively or whatnot.
I think some of us played together. I do remember playing with some of you guys, but it wasn't like Black Ops where it was us four plus a couple other where like we would almost fill the lobby or like a team matchup would be
Yeah.
pretty much all us.
Yeah, it was. That game was definitely solid, if I must say. Um, it didn't. It didn't do anything groundbreaking amongst the franchise, but it definitely kept everything balanced and fair for everyone to play.
I disagree. I think the level design of the multiplayer maps and the guns that they had available to you was fucking perfect. Like
Oh yeah, yeah.
everything felt great. Which you say is not groundbreaking, but like how many times over the past 20 years now that Call of Duty's been a thing? Yeah, it's been 20 years.
Jeez.
How many Call of Duties
Yeah,
have missed the mark?
a
That's
lot.
true in terms of balancing, and yes, absolutely. But I'm saying more so in the terms of like what it
What it brought to the
what it
table as a video
packages
game.
overall. Exactly.
Okay.
Games are supposed to bring balance. You're not supposed to have any broken components within a game. That was something that they were supposed to do, which is why I say that they didn't bring anything new to the table. They brought what was Call of Duty supposed to be for that particular game. Um, but yeah, I still enjoyed it. We even had a clan that we came up with, Team Milk. It was an acronym, motherfuckers I like killing. It
You
was
remember that? God
How
damn.
did you
I
remember that? I didn't
How'd you
remember
I
that.
came up with it.
Yeah,
That's why.
he's the
So,
one who came up with it.
oh
So
my
I came
gosh,
up with
that's
it.
so cringy.
It is cringy, but it was Call of Duty worthy.
Jeez.
so
I
You
mean,
made
deep
we're
to
down
not
lit
we're
on
not
to
gonna
my
me.
So
We're not gonna
2010.
monetize this podcast, so just by me saying that, it's like
I was gonna say, oh shit, Vanguard comes out this week, bringing back milk.
God.
I'm down. I'm down to play it if you guys are,
Nah,
but
I've tapped out of the Call of Duty personally, but
Well, it'll be more so Team Rotten Milk at this point. But
yeah.
but
But
no,
yeah, that
Black
was my
Ops
second.
days, those were good days.
They were, and yeah, that was my second entry. So passing it on to you, Gunner.
All right, well, to take that amazing experience about friends coming together and playing a good game, I'm just gonna go right back to a single player game. So, a game that to this day I play over and over, and a game that I spent hours when it first came out playing was Bloodborne. I love Bloodborne. To me personally, it is my favorite Soulsborne game in that whole family. PlayStation exclusive to this day. It is not anything. It is not on anything other than a PlayStation day game. Who knows? Maybe it'll show up on PC. Sony's been kind of, you know, generous about porting their first party stuff or their paid stuff. I don't know, but we'll
well,
see. Anyway,
there's rumors that Bluepoint is working on Bloodborne too.
and I
So
will, unless it like completely tanks and goes in another direction, I will definitely buy that. But yeah, no, Bloodborne. I when that game first came out, I'm like, okay, I knew about the Demon and Dark Souls games by then, so I'm like, all right, so this is probably gonna be in the same vein, right? Play as this knight, you're in some high fantasy medieval type world. But when I looked at it, I'm like, yo, this is like some straight gothic horror style game, which from a aesthetic point is personally like a top tier aesthetic to me. I love gothic horror and like high chapel churches and high steepled roofs and carriages on the street like that. I love that aesthetic. And that game that's the whole world that you're in, or at least like the base game. Um and when I started playing it, I was like, "Oh, what are these trick weapons?" They have trick weapons, weapons that are in one form. They play as this thing, but then you press a button and the shit literally transforms into a whole nother weapon with a whole nother move set, and in some cases, whole nother properties. You can get a weapon that goes from serrated. You press a button, and it goes into a blunt weapon.
Yep.
And like no other today, the latest game, Dark Souls 3, we'll see what Elden Ring brings, but Dark Souls 3 doesn't have trick weapons. It's the only game with trick weapons. And that meant that there were less weapons in the game compared to Demon and Dark Souls, but those weapons were two weapons in one. Not to mention they had guns, which didn't make the game any easier. Just because you had a gun doesn't mean you were sniping bosses from miles away. No, guns were your parry. They were your shield because there were no shields in Bloodborne. Everything was evasiveness. You had to dodge everything, and you couldn't even use magic. Magic worked very differently than the Demon Dark Souls games. There was magic, quote unquote. I'm using quotations, but there wasn't like wizard or pyromancer or anything like that. So Bloodborne was very in your face, physical, always have to be moving, melee combat. Trick weapons were amazing. The world was amazing. The bosses. It was one of the few Souls games that I dove into the lore for. I would read and watch videos about Bloodborne lore, and I didn't really do that with the Souls games. I was like, I would appreciate the lore, but I wouldn't get that in depth into it. And Bloodborne was a completely different story. And to this day, like it's on my PlayStation 4. I'll just be sitting down. There's nothing going on. I got nothing to do. I'm like, you know what? Let's start up another file in Bloodborne. And it got to the point where I would have to delete previous files in Bloodborne because I hit the max. I hit the maximum amount of characters you can have in
damn.
Bloodborne. Yeah. And all those characters beat the game. I would just play and beat it. And to this point, if I tried hard enough, I could probably speedrun Bloodborne. So yeah, needless to say, I play a lot of Bloodborne.
How many characters can you have?
I think you can have a maximum of 15 different characters, and I have all 15 of them are filled. They're different builds. Some of them are builds I kind of fucked around with, but They're all different builds, all different characters, and anytime I boot up another one of them's got to go. So, hey, now that you told me that, I'm gonna be on the lookout for Bloodborne 2. Hopefully, everything I want and more. But yeah, definitely Bloodborne. To this day, I still boot it up every now and then.
Yeah, it's definitely a great game. Like I ended up platted it recently because it was free on the PSN, and it kind of like revitalized my passion to play it. Because I beat it before, but then I was like, let me play it again, and I didn't. I did the DLC this time around too, so it's
Oh yeah, the
a great
DLC is
game.
also great. The DLC is like, um, it was priced appropriately, I would say. Like
Oh
it's
yeah,
like you got the content that you paid for, and that's kind of hard nowadays with DLC. But like I know the Souls games kind of do that in general, but in the case of Bloodborne, like that was appropriately priced. I
So
got
wait,
my money's
are
worth.
you saying a $20 John McClane Die Hard skin isn't worth it?
I'm gonna say it's worth it to someone out there, but it ain't worth it to me.
Fair enough.
This
to
is
each
coming
his
from
own.
the guy who buys skins in League of Legends. So like worth is subjective, but nah, I don't think they compare. But yeah, Bloodborne, love it. Play it every now and then. This day, if I get a PS5, the first game I'm probably gonna, re-download on it, more than likely Bloodborne. So I can play it with a SSD and a better quality now. But yeah, Bloodborne, love it. Great. Recommend it. So, Wolf, you got another one for us.
Yes. And it's more so of a thing that goes on in a franchise, not the overall game itself. And for me, it's Soul Calibur character creation. That shit
Okay,
is the devil. It
do
is
tell.
so addictive just to be able to create. I must have recreated Sungmina in Soul Calibur 6. I think I used all 30 or 40 slots. And I came up with literally different iterations of Sungmina character herself. Um it's they break it down by skin color, height, the build of the character, the color of the armor pieces you can mix up, down to the color of their eyes. That's how deep the Soul Calibur character creation is. To the point where it's not even really about fighting someone with that character. It's just what can you create? That's always the next thing for me. It's okay. I created Sungmina as a dragoon from Final Fantasy. I created Sungmina as one of the many anime female characters that I could do, or or a robot, or or a demon, or an angel. Like I it's just the character creation is so deep that I don't even realize the time that I'm putting into it. I think I put in more time character creating than practicing.
Yeah, I can relate. Yeah.
The character creation for me for Soul Calibur is it's too addictive. It's too addictive to the point where sometimes I even wish the mode wasn't even there. That like
Get
I
this out of my game.
it's like I'll lose time because it's just like for me a game is addictive when I go, well, what more can I do? The moment I ask myself that question, I already know that I'm about to shoot myself in the foot.
Right.
Yep.
Into the rabbit hole you go.
Right down that rabbit hole I go, and that's what it always is for me. It's like, okay, so I created her like a dragoon from Final Fantasy. Can I create her to look like Link? Let's try and create her to look like Link. And then that's hours. And then after that, I go, you know what? I think I can change this a little bit to then create a whole nother character. So let's try changing that. What if I switch? It's just, it's evil. It's crack heroin on a disc. And if anybody with even slightly creative mindset gets a hold of of Soul Calibur, whenever character creation was introduced up until now,
3.
they are going to lose themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
you can literally use that mode to create imaginary characters for yourself, or if you're a comic book artist, or if you just like to draw and you want to create characters. Like, oh my gosh, it's bad. It's really bad. I think the last time I loaded Soul Calibur 6 was character creation. Like I can't even recall all of my combos with the characters that I like to use, but I can definitely recall all of the different skins that I created them under. It's like it's just ugh, too much, too much for me. So for me, my next entry is Soul Calibur character creation. It's a problem. It's a problem.
Well,
Yeah,
you're an artist, right? So
yeah.
Yeah. So
um,
it's just like, sometimes the purple is never purple enough, like someone taught us, and I go back and I redo everything because it's like I want it perfect. And it's just like, or I'll fight someone online and they have something that's really cool. And I go, wait a minute, do I have that piece? And then I'll go looking for that piece. And it's like, okay, then you got to do this, that, and the third to unlock the piece. And then I'll go do that to unlock the piece. Just to play around with the piece, I'll play the actual game. It's just like it was no, dangerous, very dangerous if you have a creative mindset. So
Character creation is a gift and a
yeah,
curse. I mean, Namco definitely delivers in that department, in their
right.
fighting game genre. But I've seen quite a few obscene creations out there.
me
One
too.
specifically that Kong posted. I
The
don't know how he
unicorn.
got through that fight. Yep.
With the horse thing, but
Yeah.
that's the fun of it. It's just like you just see someone else's idea and it's like, damn, now I want to go to character creation and see what I can do. It's just even Tekken with the simple attachments or changing a shirt or a pants or shoes. I spent hours just mix and matching what I could get on the Tekken characters. So for me, character creation, Soul Calibur, dangerous, very, very dangerous. I lost plenty sleep for that.
Have
So
your characters cosplay as other characters from other games? I would do that a lot too.
yeah, I did that a lot. I have a Yuri dressed as Sungmina dressed like Yuri. I have a Sungmina dressed like Ryu. I have a Sungmina dressed like Rio, and they're all essentially the same fucking character. So yeah, that's me. So
Yeah.
who's next?
I
Back
guess
to
this will be
Kong.
my my last one, and this is a game that I played recently that I had to uninstall from my computer because it was just not. It was taking up too much time. I was like, this is not good. So, as you guys know, I just recently got into PC gaming, and the best thing about PC gaming is that you have access to plethora of indie games that um you otherwise wouldn't have access to, that are super cheap at that. So me just scrolling through the Steam store one day, I stumble upon a game called Medieval Dynasty. And I'm like,
Oh God.
what's this about? So I'm reading it, I'm looking at gameplay footage, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of interesting. And it's basically a game where it's a the best way to put it is it's a medieval lifestyle simulation game. And you play as a guy who um who has to survive and build a community in the medieval times. That's it. It's not a deep game. Like there's no deep story. There's quests you can do, but it's like very surface level. Hey, I need help. I Can you kill 5 wolves for me? Or hey, I lost my bow. Can you get me a new bow? Quests like that. Just very simple stuff. But that isn't the meat and potatoes of the game. The meat and the potatoes of the game is the community builder. So it has a pretty, pretty good crafting system. Like crafting as far as like building buildings, you can place them anywhere. But the best part is you can recruit NPCs in the wild in other towns to come join your community, and they have stats for different jobs. So there's like farmer, uh, extractor, like miner, diplomat, which is like a salesman, um, like some other stuff I forget. But you have to find these people, recruit them, and then you add them to your community and you give them jobs. And you have to manage those people. So like you have to make sure they have the supplies they need. You have to make sure there's food for them, that they have a house, that there's water. And if you pair two people together, like a man and a woman, there's no there's no other options. They can live in one house and they can procreate, and then their kid will have a combination of their stats. So their kid will be like a super farmer with super high farmer stats if you put two farmer people together. And the gimmick of the game is if you die and if you have a son, because you can only have a son in the game, you play as the son and you continue the community forward.
Oh wow.
Which is like that's what really brought me. I was like, oh, that's kind of sick. So if I die, like I fall off a cliff and break my neck, my son will just pick up where I left off. And I would spend an obscene amount of time just recruiting people, managing people, telling them what to do, going out doing quests, coming back, making sure everything in the town is settled. And the game still like it's still being worked on, but like there was enough there to extract 160 hours out of me in 2 weeks. 2 weeks,
Damn.
160 hours I played that game for. I would play from like I would get up in the morning, I would get breakfast, I would start playing, and I would just the whole day gone. By the time I look, like, damn, I've been playing for a while. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, holy shit, I've been playing this for like 12 hours. I go, okay, let me go do some. Let me just knock these things out, and then I'm gonna stop. And then I do that. 5 hours pass by. I'm like, fuck, it's 7 a.m. Like I gotta stop. So that's a game that was very hard for me to put down. The fact that it had building, it had crafting, there was light combat. You can like hunt wolves and hunt bears and things like that, which I wish there was more. Like you can hunt like or fight people like bandits or whatever, which they did add recently. I didn't get to play it because I'm staying away from it, but man, I can only imagine like if I played the current version of the game now, how much more time I would have put into the game. And I saw the roadmap. There's way more stuff they're gonna add. They're gonna add weapon crafting. They're gonna add like king's missions where the king comes to town and he gives you like a quest to do for the royal family, and you can like some of the features they're gonna have is like you can teach your kid how to do certain things so that when you play with your kid, those skills are already set and you don't have to
Oh,
like
nice.
relearn them again, like little bullshit like that. And I was like, oh, this is bad. Like in like 2 years, that game is gonna be crazy good, assuming everything pans out. But yeah, Medieval Dynasty is my third entry for the podcast for a game I cannot put down and had to put down permanently so that I can actually do things like my laundry and take a shower and
do actual adult
do
things.
actual things. Yeah, go outside, check my mail, things like that. All right,
Damn.
passing it back to you, Logical.
Okay. Well, while you guys were like pretty much giving y'all's, I'm pretty surprised by Wolf, Gunner, and even Yukong that you guys didn't say this, but my last entry would have to be Breath of the Wild. Like the amount of shit that you can do in that game, it really kept me up for quite some time.
I didn't bring it up for reasons, but I'll let you finish. I'll let you go ahead.
Oh damn, I'm more curious to know the reasons. But the reason why I say Breath of the Wild because it was a very unconventional Zelda game. Like a lot of shit that you did in that game, you did not do in traditional Zelda games. And at first, I was kind of like hesitant or apprehensive simply because it's like, well, this is completely different. But as I gave it some time to play, I was like, it's a really immersive game. Just the little intricacies that you can do, like combining different foods, not having a particular way of like traversing. You just pretty much there, and it's like, oh well, go out into the world. The different items that you have that wasn't really, I would say, geared towards the Zelda games per se. Like first of all, the different types of clothing, I would say as well, because Link never wore different clothing to my knowledge, aside from Wind Waker and the
It
initial clothes that he has when he's in the
like
beginning of games.
in like Link to the Past and other games, he would wear different clothing because he would need like the blue tunic to swim, the
A
fire
tunic
tunic.
for fire.
Yeah, so he did change clothes, but not to that extent.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah,
it was still a tunic. It was just a color swap,
right.
for the
Yeah,
most part. But he had like actual armor. He had like a something that resembled a pirate shirt. He had like a you can change his hats, his pants, so on and so forth. Like it was a lot of stuff you could have done in that game.
He got a motorcycle.
yeah. I never got to mess with that.
Me
Yeah,
neither. Me neither. I think that was like some DLC
it was
stuff or
DLC.
whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It was
But
DLC.
I never got to utilize that. But I did have fun like taming wild animals such as like horses and stuff. Like I literally spent a couple of hours trying to tame a deer, and I was able to ride the deer. And you know, there are people still playing this game and they're still essentially figuring new stuff out about it, which is, I find it to be amazing. Um I think also, I've never done this, but you can choose whether or not you want to just go straight to finishing the game. Like you start and just go straight to the castle and finish. I'm
yeah. I
not
think
sure.
the speed run record's like 4 minutes, 4 minutes and something. They just
Wow.
yeah, they do crazy shit to basically. It's a combination of the time stop and a rock, a literal slab of rock, and they'll
Mhm.
use it to fling them all the way to Hyrule Castle. They'll just pick up the weapons that are in the castle, go fight Ganon, beat the game.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like
See,
what?
that is very interesting, but
Doesn't really feel well because knowing that you went through all that trouble to get up to Ganon, all those hours you put in for someone
Right.
to beat the game in
no,
four
but
Yeah.
minutes.
that's what made the game fun, in my opinion. Just doing all the different random stuff that you could have done in a Zelda game, and again, the level of intricacies, like the different areas that you went to that were like mini puzzles. There was several ways to kind of solve them. You might have solved it one way, Wolf, while Gunnar would have solved it another way, and I would have solved it a completely different way. So it just had like a whole lot of variety, which kept me like
Yeah.
super engaged within the game. Um, again, I would say it's still a unconventional Zelda game, but it was a good game nonetheless, in my opinion. Um, so
Two,
yeah, that was my
two
my
is on the
last
horizon.
entry. Huh?
Two is on the horizon.
That is true.
Not for
I'm
a
I'm looking
while though.
forward
It's
to
gonna
it.
be a bit, but it's on its way.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. But you were saying, Gunnar, like why you didn't select that one?
Um, like I don't want to sound like a lot of the stuff. Some of the stuff I'll say was sound like very nitpicky stuff. I just want to preface like I do like the game.
Mhm.
I played it a couple times. I respect for what it's done. I'm thinking two's gonna compound on that and make it a really good game. There were just some couple major things to me anyway that were like, oh god, this is like him hampering my true enjoyment of the game. I guess one of it is this has been talked about in different media. Bigger places than us have talked about it, but I'm kind of like a Zelda purist when it comes to dungeons. I like the
Okay.
dungeons to be deep and
Exactly.
expansive, and like the mini shrines were cool, but eh. And then when you had like actual dungeons, when you go to the divine beasts, they just were they didn't
There were
because
two floors.
yeah, because you already had everything. You had all your gadgets. It wasn't like a traditional Zelda game where you got the hook shot. So this whole dungeon, like when you go into it, it's like, I can't do this because I can't reach there. But when you get the hook shot, the whole dungeon opens up, and it's
Yeah.
the boss is themed around the hook shot. Everything was like, I have stasis, I have bombs, I have um the other stuff. I can't remember off the top of my head. I have all of this stuff already, so I know I'm just gonna have to use all of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like that, but that's been discussed to death. And for me, the whole weapon system was just I couldn't really enjoy any of the weapons, and there were a lot of diverse weapons. There were one-handed swords, spears, claymores, wizard staffs, different shields. I couldn't enjoy any of them for the most part because they would break in a couple swings.
Yeah.
So I would have to
Yeah.
I'd have to farm a stockpile essentially of weapons that I knew were gonna break, and even the master sword, quote unquote, breaks in that game. It doesn't break, but
It loses power.
it loses its power to fight evil, which is essentially breaking, and I have to leave it there for a decent amount of time until it charges again. I'm like, you couldn't at least like leave the master sword to be infinite because you don't have to get the master sword. The master sword's a whole nother like side quest.
That shit was a pain in the ass. So,
Yeah,
Right.
it was.
Yeah.
It
You needed
was.
a certain number of hearts to live pulling the sword out. So those are the two things that for me anyway, stop Zelda Breath of the Wild from like hitting that upper echelon. I'm hoping that when 2 comes out, that's kind of rectified. I'm not saying get rid of the weapon breaking, but at least allow me to repair these weapons. If you allow that, then I'll live. If you bring back some of the traditional Zelda dungeons, but you can still have your little mini sage, like little bite-sized dungeons, I'm cool with that. But that's why that's why Breath of the Wild can't hit that top tier for me.
No,
So
I understand. Again, I did start off with saying it's an unconventional game, but it did deliver, certain mechanics that did cause me to not put it down. Like it was just so interesting to me, that it was the amount of things that you could have done in that game that was like, hey, well, if I do this, what will happen? If I do that, what will happen? It kind of expanded my mind within like trying to see what the limitations were within that game.
yeah,
And
I agree. Like
you
the
know,
cooking was cool. Like I would sometimes spend more time tinkering around with different recipes. It's like, hey, I want to have a steak, but I want to have a steak that raises my attack. So let me add this, that, and the third. Oh, cool! I got a steak that raises my attack. You can do that with a ton of the different food, and the fact that you needed like warm weather gear to scale the higher parts of Hyrule, and you needed fireproof gear to even visit the Gorons without dying every 5 minutes. So I
yeah,
agree that's cool, but there's just those two things that I can like nail down. That it's like, you're just right there. You were right there for me, but can't hit it.
completely understand. But yeah, that was my final entry.
A respectable entry. I respect it.
Oh no.
All right, so Wolf, do you have another one for us, or
I'm pretty sure you guys can guess my third and final one.
Hello Kitty?
Again with the Hello Kitty. No. But their mascot is almost as cute as Hello. No, it is more cuter than Hello. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Pokemon. Please. um, yeah, like I say, and always will say, the game is perfect. So
Sword and
I'm a
Shield.
competitor, not Sword and Shield. I'm a competitor in that franchise. So for me, it's gotta effort train my favorites plus the ones that are naturally or built to be competitive. Um, Catching everything that's available to me. Even I remember I bred. So there's this thing where if you there's a daycare where you can breed the two Pokemon together, and if the two Pokemon are from different regions, there's a great chance that it can become shiny. So my brother and I made it a challenge to take our top 10 favorites and make them shiny, for competitive play. So we had to literally breed egg after egg after egg. To get my shiny Gliscor, which is one of my favorite Pokemon, I bred 1,500 Glygars. That took me through the whole night because it's a setup. You got to get the right egg moves, you got to get the right nature, and you got to get the right stats. And then you have to set it up for every baby to be born exactly that way until one of them is lucky enough to come out this bright blue. Otherwise, the Pokemon is typically purple color. And yeah, 1,500 plus, because we would always count. Like my shiny Charizard, it took 700 plus eggs. So it was just, it's always like, okay, I'll do 30 eggs tonight and then I'll try again tomorrow. But then you get that feeling like maybe the 31st egg is going to be that shiny. So you make 10 more just in case. And then with the thought of just being annoyed and not wanting to, because it's like mobile, it was like
It's a
playing a
gotcha.
gotcha system.
Yeah, right.
So, so it was just like, damn, I didn't get the shiny. Fuck. Okay, so I'm gonna make 10 more eggs and see what I get from there. But it's like, damn, this egg came out with all 6 stats perfect. But I wonder what the next egg is gonna come out. Then you make 10 more eggs, and then it's just bad. It got to the point where our bank, the Pokemon bank, was filled with repeats. So we had to start literally deleting. I mean, we turned it into a business. We went on Cerebi and was like, you got to give me like 3 of these guys for my one shiny. And it's like, yeah, that's how we rolled during Pokemon X and Y.
Yeah, I can't imagine you
Yeah,
doing
I
it in
was
any other game because
right.
X and Y, I just stuck the quarter into the like area with the Eiffel Tower and just had him ride the bike all around until the egg started hatching. I wouldn't have went back and
No,
forth.
we manually did it ourselves,
Oh
back
no,
and
I'm
forth,
good.
back and forth, back and forth. And yeah, I would be up all night on forums looking for people who's looking for a certain shiny, asking,
Dang.
seeing what they want from me. I would say, okay, well, I'm gonna need a 6 IV Tyranitar. I'm gonna need a Greninja with its hidden ability, and maybe a Chansey. What do you got? And they'll be like, well, I have this, that, and the third, and it's like, I don't know, swap this for that, and then it was just like back and forth with many people.
Whole
I'll be
black
talking
market.
to.
Yeah, right.
Yep, that's what.
I would be negotiating with 6'5" guys at the same time over shiny trading. So yeah, Pokemon is life. I can't state that enough for me. It's the one franchise that I have left.
Yeah, no, I get
So
it.
it's like I I just can't put it down. Even though as Sword and Shield isn't great, I did invest maybe about 200 plus hours in Sword and Shield. From looking for perfect guide read guys, or so I started the process, but I never finished. I stopped halfway, and I haven't played the DLC. I don't know if I will at this point, because with the RCS game coming out soon, I'm very interested in that, which I feel
Yeah,
nothing else will exist once that starts. So I'm probably gonna use some PTO time from my job for that game. It's worth it. It's really
Hey, man.
worth it. I think so. Who
Some
knows?
people like, and some people take vacations to the Caribbean. Some people
Mm.
use the time for that.
I'm going to the world of Pokemon.
I've done it.
Yes.
yep,
I've done it.
same,
I
same.
mean, Blanka Kong saw me in high school how I would not give up on Emerald. As hard as the Battle Frontier is what it was called, which was like challenge mode.
That shit was awkward because he would just like throw a fit right next to me and our other high school friend, and we would just look at each other. Like, anyway, setting this trap card down. Your turn. Like we would just like all right, I'll leave him alone.
Like I would throw tantrums, I would pull my hair, I would slap my forehead so hard that my face will turn red, because that was a stressful thing. That was a stressful game. But the idea of just not wanting to lose, or feeling like I could do a little better if I tried again, that's what that was. And I couldn't stop. So for me, all across the franchise, it's any and every iteration of Pokemon game that I've ever played. I cannot put it down until I've dug through every nook and cranny of that game.
No one can say you don't get your money's worth out of those games.
Yeah,
That's true.
No, I squeeze it for everything. I squeeze that sponge out for everything. So yeah, that's my third and final entry. Beautiful
All
game.
right. I'll drop one more before we wrap it up.
Go for it.
For me, it's Advance Wars.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, like I'm
Very
big.
nice.
Yeah, I'm big into the Advance Wars. I don't even remember how I discovered that game. I picked up the Advanced Wars back on the Game Boy, and I was like, "What the heck is this Advanced?" What? Put it in the Game Boy. I'm like, "Oh shit! It's I didn't even know what the terminology. I didn't even know at the time what uh a SRPG was, but it was that. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. I play as like an army dude, and I do that, and it was just a simple game. It was you the first one, Andy, and the Orange Star army. That's how much I know. It's just like these big bad guys are coming in and then fighting your little tiny nation. And the story was cool for what it was, but it was just the fact that the whole premises of the game was that you had an army. You started off with like select units, and you had to bum rush to different cities and manufacturing plants to build up the money and build up the facilities to make your army bigger and better. And on the other side of the field was the AI doing the exact same thing. But the game had fog of war, so you didn't know what they were doing. It's kind of like Civilization, where you don't know what what Gandhi's doing on the other side of the continent, but you know he's up to something.
He always
You're like,
is.
right, so you don't know how big this guy's army is until you finally meet on the field of battle, and you gotta hope to God that you know, your tanks match up to his, and he's not rocking fucking B-52 bombers by the time you get there. So like, I always love that aspect, and the officers had different powers. Some of them could make it like a blizzard out of nowhere. Some could make it rain. Some could, there was one guy who specialized in artillery, long range artillery, and his power would be to expand the range and damage of it. So you had to. I remember one time I was fighting him, and I knew once I crossed this line, I'm in his line of sight. So what I did was I built a line of tanks, just a line of medium tanks. And when I was ready, I bum rushed his artillery. Probably not the smartest play, but at the time it was the best play. So literally, if you could imagine this as like a real war situation, I have tanks rolling across the hills and artillery is just raining down, and some of them are dying. But that's a risk I'm willing to take. And I made sure that enough of my tanks crossed that line, and I took out his artillery and I took his HQ, and a lot of digital people died that day. But that was a sacrifice I was willing to make. And it's just little stuff like that that I just found so cool when I finally got air superiority and I flew over this guy's city and I just bombed it to hell and he couldn't do anything about it. So,
It's a good
Damn.
feeling.
yeah, I love that game. I played all of them, and for a while Advance Wars was gone. Nintendo was like, I'm over it." I was like, "Ah, man. I miss Advance Wars. I would play indie games that were Advance Wars like, but it was never Advanced Wars." And then on the Nintendo Treehouse, they were like, "Hey, it's not a new one, but we're gonna remake 1 and 2 on the Switch." I was like, "Oh shit, give me that money. Give it to me now." And then they delayed it to April. So it's still coming out, but I gotta wait a little bit longer. But I waited this long.
It'll be worth the wait.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I
I've
love it.
always heard good things about that game. I've never played it. I think I own one. I think I own one for the advance, but I've never actually played it.
Like it's not like they're not groundbreaking tactical RPGs. It's no XCOM, I'll say that. But it's just something it has its own little style and its just own little flavor with the art style. It's war, but they make war kind of cute. Is weird. Days of Ruin. If you ever
Chibi
check,
War.
yeah, yeah. If you ever check out Days of Ruin, that's when Advanced Wars tried to get a little bit more mature. I think it did good for what it was. But
Okay.
if you ever get the chance, I'm not, we don't condone or we don't condemn emulation's a thing. I'm just saying, check it out for those watching or listening right there. If you support that, I'd recommend checking those out. Or if you want to get them legit, there's still some on the DS you can probably snag for a decent amount.
Okay.
But yeah, Advance Wars. That's my final one. Love that game. Play it to this day.
Advance Wars is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, seems like tactical games kind of took over this episode. I think everybody
that-
here has had at least one tactical entry. I think,
Yeah.
right?
That's to this day. That's pretty much my main genre. I'm playing one right now, Super Robot Wars on the Switch. So,
Oh yeah, I gotta play that game.
Oh, I wanna pick that up.
well, not to be. I'll talk about it after the podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
Really,
We'll
really,
discuss that.
it's a good one. It's a good one.
All right. Well, we are out of time. That was a fun episode. Really diverse. Even though we all had like tactical RPGs, there was like a lot of diverse games there, from everybody who spoke. So if you guys enjoyed the video, give it a like. Comment down below with some of your games that are hard to put down, tactical RPG or not. We'd love to hear it. Subscribe. We do podcasts every week. Publishes Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We also, Mr. Esoteric here to my left, he streams on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. He usually plays single player action adventure games, so if you're into that, definitely give him a look and follow if you're interested in that content. I also stream on Twitch. I don't have a schedule. I kind of stream when I kind of am in the mood to stream and I'm able to. Under Blanka Kong, I usually stream retro games. I stream Monster Hunter, well, old Monster Hunter, just to be clear, and 8-bit retro games, 16-bit retro games, 32-bit, PS2, an assortment of different games. So, with that being said, Mr. Esoteric, can you tell them where they can find us on the socials?
All right, ladies and gents, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Logical Gamers TV. Just look for the light bulb icon with the bow tie, looking all suave and sophisticated. And yeah, can't miss us.
All right. Well, with that being said, guys, have a good night. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me. Catch you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.
Later.